I am an honest guy who made an honest mistake. I was there. I survived. His breath was right against my neck. At 15, I too thought I could take on the world. I thought, this is it. This is actually the end. I'm not going to hurt you. I survived. I'm going to tell you about that. I am an honest guy who made an honest mistake. I was there. I survived. His breath was right against my neck. At 15, I too thought I could take on the world. I thought, this is it. This is actually the end. I'm not going to hurt you. I survived. I'm going to tell you about that. Hi, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Alright, welcome to another episode in the Survivor series. Thank you if you have got in touch about the Survivor series. I'm receiving such amazing reactions, they're all really different, so it's really nice just to hear people's different ideas on stories. One piece of feedback that I got was from Leanne, who responded on Facebook, and she said that the story of Elizabeth, the girl who was kidnapped and held in a bunker, she says, Barry, I cried my heart out at this story, and I cannot shake the thought of what that girl went through. Thank you for her story. Alright, well, thank you, Leanne, for that. And then Rory, who emailed me to say, these stories are blowing my mind. When I think of survival, I'm always shocked by how much others go through, and you're telling these stories so well. Thank you, Rory. Well, just for balance, we'll get to Sandra. Oh, now Sandra. In an email, Sandra says this. Hi, Barry, darling. Okay, good start, nice start. I'm into it. I'm like, okay, what's Sandra got to say for herself? Sandra says, hi, Barry, darling. I'm enjoying the Survivor series. However, I didn't really enjoy the boat story. The Rose, whatever it was called. It was called the Rose Noel, Sandra. I think I said that quite a few times. She continues, if you could just stick to blood and guts, that would be great. Well, Sandra, come on. This is tricky. Right, this is very tricky. I know people love the blood and the guts and the murder and the kidnap, but there has to be balance. I have to bring balance to it. It can't always be just the most horrific things that anyone has ever gone through. I'm talking about survival in the biggest, widest way possible. So I'm trying to cover as many stories as possible. So Sandra, for your cheek, for your absolute cheek, you are banned from this episode. You are, if you're listening, Sandra, turn it off. You don't get to listen to this one. Oh, Sandra, darling, you've got a mark against your name. No, I'm only kidding. Of course, I'm only kidding. But yeah, enjoy it. Just send me the feedback. If you didn't like a story, please tell me you didn't like a story. I'm okay with that. I'm alright with that. I mean, it's not very often that people go, oh, I didn't really like that. But if you didn't, just tell me. That's fine. Sandra, I don't think that you're going to love this episode very much. But yeah, let's see how we get on. What is this episode? Well, I have a mix of stories. I've got 3 different little stories here for you. Story 1 is called Lucky Number 7. Story 2 is called Current. And story 3 is called Light. All survival themed. All in their own way under the Survivor umbrella. There are some deaths involved, but it's who survived and what they survived before they died that really, really fucking fascinated me. We humans are made of pretty strong stuff, and some of these stories are really going to prove that. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Okay, nature. Well, nature has a mind of its own. We know this. Nature can be the most wonderful thing in the world. But it can also come and really kick your arse when you least expect it. And the latter, the arse kicking, is exactly what Mother Nature did to a man named Roy Sullivan. Okay, who was he? Roy was a park ranger living and working in the USA. To be precise, he was in Virginia. Roy was born in 1912, a long time ago, and he was the 4th of 11 children born to his parents, and they lived in the Blue Ridge Mountains. All I've got in my head is Calamity Jane going on when I describe that his family lived in the Blue Ridge Mountains. All I've got is whip crack away, whip crack away, whip crack away going on in my head. That's all I can think of. Well, as a young child and a teenager, Roy was really, really into nature. He liked being outdoors. He liked open areas of woodland. You know, he liked to go out and play, to go out and investigate. You know, sometimes I really bloody hope that kids don't underestimate how amazing that is. I really hope that we don't lose kids to their phones and their computers. I mean, I know that sounds like such an old man thing to say. In my day, I played with a stick and some grass and I was quite happy. I don't mean it like that. I just mean it's important that when you're young, you know, sting yourself on nettles and you make daisy chains and you pick up ladybirds, all that kind of stuff, you know. You have to do that as a child. I mean, I don't know why I'm describing it like your childhood should be like something from the Waltons. I don't mean that, but like, you know, I wasn't necessarily the most outdoorsy of kids, but I did enjoy being outdoor and I did all those things. And so anyway, so was Roy. Roy was really into being outside and working within nature. So when he grew up, getting a job like a park ranger, well, that was ideal for Roy. As an adult, Roy had a few different relationships with various different women over the years, and he would end up married a few different times in his life. So to give you a picture of Roy, he was a really big man. Tall, very, very tall. Big, broad shoulders. Really strong features on his face. People would say about him later in life that he looked like Gene Hackman, the actor. I mean, I don't necessarily think he's identical to Gene Hackman, but I can kind of see what people are talking about there. So what makes Roy Sullivan, this park ranger from Virginia, so important? What makes his story worth telling? Well, that is the fact that Roy defied Mother Nature so many times in his life. And here's where it starts. In 1942, aged 30, Roy was at work in the park and it was evening. Now, evening was closing in. It began to get really dark and some brooding clouds began to appear in the sky. And in the distance, Roy heard some rumbling thunder. And he thought, okay, I think there's possibly a storm on the way. I had better get indoors. So what he does is he tries to walk back to where his office area is in the park to get to shelter from the coming storm, but he doesn't make it back in time because literally the skies burst open and a really fierce storm begins to sweep through the park. So in order to get to shelter, Roy runs to the nearest building that he can find, and that is a newly built fire watch tower in the park. So he gets inside the fire watch tower and he's absolutely soaking wet, but now he's inside the shelter. So he's waiting for the storm to subside, but it's not going anywhere, this storm. And the next thing he hears is more thunder, and it's starting to sound closer and closer to where he is. I love the sound of thunder. I absolutely love it. I love the drama of it. I love the drama of a bit of thunder. So Roy's in the tower, and this thunder, as is often the way it will be, it's followed by lightning. Now, the fire watchtower that Roy is in, it's fairly new. It's only newly built, and it has no lightning rod. And lightning begins to strike the tower really fiercely. So Roy is absolutely fearing for his life at this point, and he runs out of the tower to try and escape the lightning which is hitting the tower, and the lightning follows him and Roy is struck by lightning. He falls to the ground. The lightning strike has burned a strip of his flesh right down the length of his right leg, and it's blown his big toe off his right foot. Roy is bleeding everywhere, and he manages to get to the office that he was trying to get to in the first place through a mixture of crawling and hobbling, all the while in absolutely searing pain. Oh my, that's not something anyone ever wants to have to go through. Now, Roy, he survives this lightning strike. He's treated for the huge burn and flesh wound which runs down his leg. Sadly, his toe was never found to be reattached. I'm so sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that. It's just the fact that his toe was blown off and the toe was never found. Poor Roy. Poor Roy with the 9 toes. Oh. Now, the chances, the odds, the statistics of being struck by lightning in your lifetime, just in case you wanted to know, are 1 in 280 million that you will ever be struck. Well, what if you were Roy Sullivan, the lightning survivor? If the odds are that extreme, could it ever happen again? It's happened once. Surely it's not going to happen a second time. Well, yes, apparently it is. If you are Roy. 27 years after that first lightning strike hit Roy, he is still working as a park ranger. Still only got 9 toes. And he is driving in the park one day. You know, at a really slow speed. He's just cruising around the park, making sure everything's okay, when he hears thunder rolling in the distance. And he thinks, well, okay, it's fine actually. I'm in a car. And this is a safe place to be. Yes, that's true. But it's only a safe place to be, and Roy will learn this lesson. It's only a safe place to be if you have the windows rolled up. And Roy didn't. I mean, it's all well and good to think, I'm in a car, it's quite safe. Roll the fucking windows up. Roll the fucking windows up. Lightning strikes a tree nearby to where Roy's car is passing by. It bounces off of a second tree. The lightning jumps straight into Roy's car, knocking him unconscious, and the car crashes. Luckily, like I said, he wasn't going at high speed, but he's still hurt from the lightning and the car crash. This poor man, poor Roy, this is the second time it's happened in his life. As well as only having 9 toes, this second lightning strike has taken Roy's eyebrows and his eyelashes. Poor bastard. I mean, unbelievable. To happen to you twice is just, what a shocker. For that to happen to you twice. Terrible. Pretty incredible he survived both of those. Right, here's the thing. We can take that 1 in 280 million statistic and throw it in the bin, because there were 2 lightning attacks on Roy Sullivan, and were these the only ones that he would suffer in his life? Oh no, they were not. By the time Roy died in 1983, he had been struck by lightning 7 times and survived each one of them. 7 fucking times. That's unbelievable. It's actually crazy. Roy's written in the history books as the man who suffered more lightning strike attacks than anyone before 1983. Strike 3 happened when Roy was gardening at home. He's not even safe in his own house. He can't even do things in his own garden. He's gardening away at home, hears the thunder, suspects there's going to be lightning, and just before Roy can get indoors, get into the house, a bolt comes from the sky and hits Roy. This one knocks him unconscious, and Roy spends the next few days completely disorientated from that strike. While we're on the subject of numbers, let's talk about Roy's love life. I said this earlier on. He had met and married many women in his life, and in fact, yeah, that was 4 times he was married. And divorced 3 of those. So by the time the next strike will happen in Roy's life, he's married to his 4th and final wife. It's important to know that Roy was on wife number 4 because of what's going to happen at the end of Roy's life. So strike number 4. Roy was out camping when a thunderstorm began, and before he could hide, he was struck. And he said this of the 4th lightning strike. He says, "There was a gentle rain, but no thunder, until one big clap. It was the loudest thing I have ever heard. When my ears stopped ringing, I heard something sizzling. It was my hair on fire. The flames were up to 6 inches. Roy lost his hair in the 4th lightning strike." I mean, come on. Just to add to the fact that he had 9 toes, no eyebrows and no eyelashes, he's now got no hair. This poor bastard. Poor Roy. Strike number 5. Again, it happens in a vehicle. He's in a truck. He's doing some park ranger duties. He hears the thunder. And of course he's thinking, okay, right, well, this is... I've been burned many a time here. Here's the thunder. Decides to drive really, really, really fast in the opposite direction of where he thinks the storm is coming. He thinks he's gotten away from it. He stops the car. He waits. He can hear no thunder. And when he's pretty sure the storm is over, he steps out the car, and for fuck's sake, this poor guy, a bolt of lightning comes from the sky and strikes him. He has got no luck. I mean, it's just insane. He will say himself, I know this sounds crazy. And he says, I love this, he says, I sound insane when I say that thunder follows me, but I swear it does. It's like thunder sees me and thinks, there's Roy, let's get him. I mean, yeah. Statements like that do make you sound a bit crazy, Roy. But yeah, I suppose by the time your 5th attack happens, you must be thinking, for fuck's sake, what is it about me? Why is it this keeps happening to me? It's around about this time just after the 5th one, that Roy happens to be out with friends and family, and there's a bit of thunder, there's a rumble of a storm possibly coming, and Roy discovers that everyone runs away from him as fast as they can. Family and friends run in the opposite direction, because by now it's become Roy just seems to attract the lightning. He's now going by nicknames like Roy the Rod. Roy the Rod, I do enjoy that. The next one's the best. The Spark Ranger. And Roy the Human Conductor. Okay, where were we? Number 5. Right, number 6. Roy was walking along one of the park trails, just out doing his job, checking everything was fine. He would be struck once more, and this time his head received major scars from the burn that he received from the lightning. So far I told you about the physical scars that Roy suffered, but the damage seen by doctors over the years from lightning strikes include the following: memory loss, frontal lobe damage, permanent brain injury, post-traumatic distress disorder, personality changes, and depression. The last lightning strike was a turning point for Roy. He had just had enough. This was 1976, and Roy, at the age of 65, he just gave up work. Now, I mean, that's about the right age to be giving up work, but the problem was he actually loved what he was doing, and he didn't want to retire, but he did. He was sick by this point of the constant fear of lightning strikes. He says, "I'm tired of wondering if the next one will be the one that kills me." So now retired, Roy does what a lot of people do when they retire. He turned to some hobbies. I think when I'm retired, I'm going to take up something really cool like graffiti or like rap, maybe. And maybe rap won't be cool by that point, but yeah, I'm going to take up something really extreme. Strike number 7, the final strike of thunder, happens for Roy. He is out for the day with his family, and a thunderstorm starts. Runs and tries to get his family into the car as soon as possible, but when lightning strikes, guess who it finds? And in the car park of a supermarket, Roy is struck down for the 7th time in his life by lightning. He ends up in hospital for weeks after this lightning strike. This one seriously damages his body. And Roy's older now. This is his 7th attack, and his body's taken, it's taken a lot from these thunder strikes, and by now it's really taking its toll. Roy's friends and family and his wife, they notice that his mental health really isn't in a great place. He was suffering from long periods of depression, and he was becoming really introverted. All the jokes about him being the human lightning rod and the nickname Spark Ranger, they had to stop because it wasn't funny any longer. Roy had actually really been affected mentally by the strikes, and he was slipping further and further into a depression. So, in September 1983, Roy went to bed one evening with his wife, and that night when Roy went to bed, it would be the last time that he did. The following morning, police were called to the house where Roy lay dead in bed. What was the cause of death? A heart attack? A brain aneurysm? No. It was a bullet through his skull. Roy's wife had called police. She called him to the house, and when they asked her what happened, she said he shot himself in the night. Now, at this point, police ask, why did it take you until the morning to call police? Because if we look at this, it looks as if he's been dead for about 6 hours. Why is it taking you 6 hours to call police or an ambulance? His wife will say that she slept through it and that she awoke in the morning to find him dead. Now this casts major suspicion. Major suspicion. And there's a period of time where Roy's wife was being questioned for the murder of her husband. Police really believing that she had shot him in the head in the night as he slept. Eventually, without enough evidence, Roy's wife was cleared, and his death was ruled as a self-inflicted gunshot. And that's where Roy Sullivan's life ends. Now, he lives on in the history books, and I think this is really nice. Some parts of his park ranger uniform, they're on display in a museum in Virginia, and they're next to a plaque which reads, Roy Sullivan, survivor of 7 lightning strikes. And so ends the story of Roy. Okay, story 2. Right, we're still dealing with nature and the world of, well, it's something that I wasn't really aware of this, and I am now. Hopefully you will be too once I get into it. This story is very, very recent. It's 2017. And we're in Putin Bay. Not Putin as in Vladimir, but as in Put-in Bay. And it's in Ohio. So a family decide that they are going to spend the weekend on their boat. The Curry family. Now they have a boat, and they go quite often to the Miller Marina in Ohio, and it was something that they really enjoyed doing as a family, and often that's how they would spend their weekends. Sounds bloody lovely to me. Sounds gorgeous. I'd love to spend my weekends on a boat. That'd be really nice. So the Curry family, they're enjoying their little weekend break. And so the family is made up of the mum, the dad, 2 sons, and the family dog. And the family dog is called Daisy. So of the 2 sons in the family, the one that we really need to focus on, the one we really need to be thinking about, is the younger brother, Evan, who is 19 years old. So on the day that we are talking about, it's the Saturday. The family have been out on the boat all day. They've had a really lovely, lovely day, but it's time to bring the boat back in to the marina. And so they dock their boat and they plug their boat into the nearest power source. Now, some of you will know immediately what I might be about to talk about, but some of you might not. I'm talking about what happens when you plug a boat in and electricity and water mix. Right, okay, so we all know electricity and water, not a good combination. But in terms of this situation, the boat is plugged in. So what happens to the water around the boat? Well, quite simply, electricity starts to flow through the water around the boat, creating an electrical current. And the family are completely unaware that this is happening. Now, it's the kind of thing that could be happening all the time, and in fact is happening all the time when you plug your boat into an electrical source. The boat's charging, electricity is flowing through the water, and so what? I mean, it's not harming anyone, is it? Yes, it is. The water around the boat is really heavily charged with electricity, and the Curry family are not aware when something happens that will set off a chain of tragic events. As I said on the boat, the Curry family was made up of mum, dad, 2 sons, and the family dog. Daisy, the family dog, jumps overboard into the water, and within seconds she begins to show signs of distress and she's struggling to swim. Now the family are looking at her and thinking, Daisy doesn't normally ever show signs of struggling when it comes to swimming. So something is wrong, something's happening to her. The first person to jump in is the eldest brother. He jumps in and he struggles to get to the dog, and the dog is still showing incredible signs of distress. But the brother seems unable to get anywhere near the dog. His body is doing something incredibly strange. He seems to be shaking. He seems to be convulsing. Seeing this, the dad of the family, he jumps in to try and save his son and the dog. So he dives in and he too is hit by the electricity. The remaining family on board are watching this unfold in front of them, and they have no idea what the hell is going on. By now you have the dog, the eldest son and the dad all in the water, and they're all struggling. The third and the final member of the family to jump in is youngest brother Evan. Evan begins to convulse as soon as he hits the water, and his mother is screaming at this point on the boat, and she can just about hear Evan shouting the word electricity between convulsions, but she can't quite hear him properly. She knows he's shouting something. I mean, it all happened so fast, and for that woman, she's now watching the three men in her family and her family dog, and they're all in the water and they're all struggling. By now, the screaming has attracted people all around the marina who are screaming at the mother, turn off the electricity, they're being electrocuted, turn off the electricity. So she does this and the current disappears. People are then diving in to help the family get back on to the boat. Back on the boat, Evan is still convulsing. Of the three men who jumped into the water, he is in the biggest trouble. The convulsions are still happening, and his family are screaming for someone to call an ambulance. And as they wait for the ambulance to arrive, Evan begins to become unresponsive. And by the time a doctor arrives, youngest son, aged 19, Evan Curry dies in his family's arms. The other two males who jumped into the water and the family dog all survived the electricity. The term for what killed Evan is EDS, which stands for electric shock drowning. And it happens when an electric current is in the water and it attempts to enter through someone's body. What happens is it attacks the skeletal muscular system and it causes paralysis, which results in drowning. And that's exactly what happened to Evan. It's an absolutely horrible, horrible situation. It's an absolutely terrible thing to have happened to a 19-year-old boy. But it's one of those stories that stuck with me because I thought, I know so many of you who listen are dog lovers, and I thought, who wouldn't jump in to save their dog if they thought that the dog was struggling in water. And it's horrible and it's terrible. And so ends the very short and the very tragic story of Evan. Okay, so we've gone from lightning and electricity to electricity in water. Now let's just focus on the water. Sandra, you're going to hate this. I don't know why I get so drawn to water-based stories, but the story of this next guy's survival is just crazy. It's just absolutely insane, and it all takes place in water. So, the final story number 3. Charles Lightroller was born in 1874 in Chorley, Lancashire, in England. I was going to try and do a Lancashire accent there to show you what that sounds like, but I don't even really know what Lancashire is. I think it's like that. I think it. Oh no, that's what was. No, I think that sounds like Manchester. I think it's like that. No, that's not it. I don't know what accent the hell am I doing. Oh, I'm from Lancashire. Yeah, it's a bit like that. Oh God, I actually annoyed myself with that noise. So forgive me if you're from Lancashire and you wanted to punch me at that moment. I can understand why you would want to. Anyway, Charles had a great interest in the sea from a young age, and about age 13, he began an apprenticeship on board the Primrose Hill ship. And this would be his first time on board a ship. And for the young 13-year-old Charles, this was a really great experience. He absolutely loved it. Loved it. It was really smooth. It was fine. There were no issues. Now Charles, he was about to embark on a career at sea. And it's really good that his first voyage was full of calmness, because the rest of his life would be dogged with problems at sea, leading him to be involved in one of the biggest disasters to ever happen at sea. So his second voyage, when he was a young man, completely ended in disaster. He was aged 18 when he was on board the Holt Hill ship, and the ship was caught in a terrible storm, and it was destroyed. The surviving crew members, they were rescued. They were taken to Rio de Janeiro, and whilst they were there, malaria broke out amongst the crew. And Charles, he managed to survive the malaria epidemic, which many of his crew members didn't. So many of the guys that he had set out on this second voyage with, and that must be really hard, he was only like 18, 19 years old, they just died there and then from malaria. But not Charles. Charles, he got through it. So, his third voyage, it came when he was 21 years old, and he was back to the very first ship that he'd ever sailed in. So, what's going to await Charles this time? Well, in his third voyage, the boat that he's in, it goes on fire, and several crew members are burned to death. But Charles, he manages to escape it. Now, Charles, and I can get this, he's a bit put off by these disasters that have happened at sea, and I mean, you really would be, wouldn't you? He decides to take a bit of time off from the sea and try a different lifestyle. I mean, I think I would be doing the same. I think I'd be like, do you know what? See, with all these disasters, I feel like I'm going to die at sea. So I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go and work in the post office. or I'm just gonna go and be a dentist, because it's not boded well for him so far. So he tries his hand at being a cattle farmer, but it doesn't really work out for him. And it's that thing I was saying at the beginning. It's the being drawn back to it. Before too long, Charles he's drawn back to the sea because it's kind of in him. Do you know what I mean? It's like in his blood. It's in his thing. It's what he wants. It's what his passion is. He wants to be at sea. And so yeah, he's had some disasters, but Charles is like, you know what? Let's just go back to sea. Maybe that was just a few incidents, and the rest of my career might be really smooth. Now, when Charles does decide that he wants to return to sea, he takes a job on a brand new ship that's being tested. So often what will happen is, when there's a newly built ship, before it goes on any big, huge voyage, it goes on shorter test journeys. They're usually quite short, but it's just to test that everything's working, everything's fine, before it goes on its major voyage. And so, it's a ship like this that he is assigned to. The ship he's assigned to is called the Titanic. Have you heard of it? Well, Charles Lightroller, who had survived shipwrecks, malaria, fire, was about to face his absolutely biggest challenge. On board the Titanic, on that fateful journey, when the icebergs hit, Charles Lightroller jumped into action. He kept his calm. He was cool. He was focused. And he maintained in the panic and the confusion and the fear. He maintained the importance of women and children first. He absolutely ensured that men were not skipping the queue, and he assured the safety and the survival of so many women and children. Charles was there literally putting woman after woman after woman into the lifeboats and refusing to let men get into them until women were in those boats and safe. It's even now, I think there's no actual fixed number, but it is so many people. It's hard to sort of pin down what the number is, but Charles, in that moment, he made sure that so many women survived on that ship that night. And when the time came for the very, very, very last boat to be filled, Charles, he was the last man off of the Titanic to climb into the survival boat. He made sure that all of his other crew members were in it first. He literally crawled into it and fitted into the tiniest little space because he was just concerned with other people's survival. And if he survived it, great. If he didn't, what he wanted to do was just make sure that as many fucking people survived it as possible. When the rescue boats arrived to take those who had gotten off the Titanic to safety, the boat that Charles was in, it was the last one to be rescued, and it was just in the nick of time because his boat, it was beginning to sink. Charles Lightroller, the man who had been through all of this, was the last person to reach safety and be named a survivor of the Titanic. He's actually depicted in the film. In the film, I think he's Scottish. I may be misremembering this. I could be wrong. I can't remember now, but I'm pretty sure there's a point where there's a man shouting at people about boats and rescue boats and... Well, it's reported that during the evacuation, the real Charles, not the actor in the film, but the real man, he discovered that actually 25 men had climbed into one of the lifeboats, and he pointed a pistol at them and he marched them out of the lifeboat shouting, "Get out of there, you cowards. Let the women go first." I'm just going to say at this point, I bet you are thrilled that I've got to this point in the Titanic story and I haven't yet sung Celine Dion. I mean, you haters of my vocal talents, just you watch out, because there might be a hidden rendition in this episode at some point. So what of Charles in later life? Well, when the First World War broke out, he took to the seas once more. But the ship that he was in, it ended up crashing and it was shipwrecked. I mean, it's a bit like Roy Sullivan and the lightning strikes. Roy should really have probably had a custom built suit to avoid lightning in his life. A bit like Charles, somebody needed to say to him, "Stay away from boats, mate. They're not your thing." Like, every time you go on a boat, there's a fucking disaster. But eventually, Charles, he worked this out for himself and he gave up his life at sea, saying, "I don't want any more trips on... I can't do another voyage on a boat because I don't know if I can survive the next one. I just don't know if I can actually get through it." So for the rest of his life, he did land-based jobs. Thank God. He eventually wrote a memoir called The Titanic and Other Ships in My Life. It's a snazzy title, Charles. It's snazzy. At the age of 78. I mean, a good old age, considering the fact that Charles should really have died about 20 times in his fucking life. He made it to 78, which I think is brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Considering he survived the fucking Titanic, shipwrecks, fires, malaria. It's incredible he got to 78 years old. He died due to complications in his chest. And really, what that is because he had been a pipe smoker all of his days. Eventually, all that smoking of the pipe had got into his chest. Charles was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the Gardens of Remembrance in Lancashire. And so ends the story of Charles. Alright, so 3 very different but very, very interesting survival stories. I mean, to survive 7 lightning strikes and be able to live out your days. I feel for Roy that actually, I said that stuff about, people who get hit by lightning go through mental health problems and there's depression and there's all those things. And I feel like actually that's the bit of the story that's kind of maybe the saddest bit, is that actually Roy will forever, be in the Guinness Book of Records and he'll have all that stuff in the memorial, and you can go and see his uniform and be like, "Oh my God, there's this guy and he got struck by lightning 7 times. But actually the story's bigger than that. The story is the fact that he actually, went through some serious depression because of that. Because actually his body, his life was affected by those things. Same with Charles Light Roller. I can't imagine actually how much he must have been affected by the fact that, disaster at sea started for him at 18 years old. And it was just a catalogue of disasters. But he showed strength, he showed resilience, and he survived them all. In the middle story, in the case of the Curry family and losing the 19-year-old boy, yeah, that is absolute tragedy. But there were survivors in that story, and I don't know. I felt like I wanted to tell that story because I think we all know what it's like if you see an animal who needs your help, and it's, it's selfless to jump overboard and try and save your family pet. And I'm just really sorry that he didn't survive that experience. Okay, so anyway, I'm out of here. If you want to, you can get in touch. Please join the Facebook group. It's a brilliant place to be. It's growing all the time at a rapid rate, and we've got so many new members. Thank you, new members. It's lovely to have you along. Twitter, Instagram, I'm there. Email me, send me an email. I will read your emails all the time. I will reply to you. I will, I'm actively across that. Sandra, send me an email. Tell me how much you hated this episode. That's fine. Sandra, if you are listening, I am only kidding, by the way. I'm only taking the piss. I'm just joking with you. Support the podcast on Patreon if you can, if you're in a position to, and if you would like to, please leave an iTunes review. I know it seems like a small, tiny thing, an iTunes review, but you've no idea how actually helpful they are. They really, really, really bloody help. So I know you don't all listen through iTunes, but if you do, pop a wee review on there. You don't even need to really pop a review. Well, the reviews are lovely, and when I get them, I'm always like, oh my god, that's so nice that someone took the time. You can just do the wee star rating as well. So that would be lovely. Yeah. Until the next Survivor Series episode, thank you for listening. Okay. Goodbye. Anyway, Charles Rolllighter. Charles Low. Oh, for fuck's sake, spit it out. Charles Light Roll. I'm going to punch myself in the face. Charles Light Roller. No, I can't say it like that. Oh, shut up. Charles Light Roller was born. Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That's how I know we go on. You're here. Hang on a minute. Hang on a bloody minute. Just hang on 1 second. Let's crank this up a level. Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That's how I know my heart will go on. Once more, I don't know the words. You open the door. Oh no, I think the instrumental's a bit behind my vocal. Right, here we go. You're here, there's nothing I fear, and I know that my heart will go on. I don't think this instrumental is right, by the way. I'm sorry, everyone. I think the instrumental's wrong. It put me off there for a second, but yeah, I'll work on that and get back to you. Okay, thanks. in 1870. I've just done this fucking bit. Oh my god. Charles Wright. Oh my god, I've just done it again. Oh my god, Barry, why can't you say his name?
It doesn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.